So what you write in those text boxes, I know people are like, oh, why are they asking me to repeat myself? Like, do a good job of that, because the ATS is reading the text in those boxes, not your resume potentially. Hey badasses, welcome back to the Badass Careers YouTube channel, which is designed to give you modern career advice that doesn't suck. Well, I hope. So I combine 10 years of being a corporate HR recruiter and leadership development expert and HR generalist and slam it all together. I've been working with some of the most incredible companies in the world, Fortune 500s, tech startups, and the most incredible people in the world. And I'm channeling everything I know about getting amazing opportunities and showing up as the high achiever you are in your career. And I'm putting it right here. So welcome. And today we're going to talk about a topic that's quite dear to my heart, which is around getting your resume, your CV through the applicant tracking system, the ATS. So getting it past those little robots that like to read your CV. So a lot of people come to me and say, I just feel like I'm sending my CV. When I apply online, it feels like I'm sending my resume into a black hole. Like I send it away and it's like it never gets read, never gets seen. And one of the first steps you've got to make sure that you're conquering if you're applying online is getting past the applicant tracking system. So we're going to dive into that today and talk about some of the myths around that, because there's a lot of misinformation out there about this, and some hacks that you can use to make sure the robots are saying, yeah, this person sounds good. When I say the robots, it's an algorithm, right? And it's scanning your resume, your document. We'll get into all of that kind of stuff. But I just like to think of them as a little team of handy dandy robots that are going through and reading like, what do we think here? So yeah, that's how I like to imagine it. So why do these systems even exist? Well, on average, jobs tend to get about 300 applicants on average, okay? And if you're working somewhere like Google, they receive 75,000 applications per week to work at Google, and given the current context, it's probably even more competitive, even more people looking for work. So of course these systems exist as a kind of resume spam filter to kind of cut through all of the noise and just show the recruiter the small percentage of profiles that they better look at and consider, and then see who's going to make it through to the interview. According to a recent study, 98% of Fortune 500s have an applicant tracking system, and over half of small to mid-sized companies use them as well. And it's just going to be the new norm, so we have to learn how to navigate this stuff. So what the hell is an applicant tracking system? So it's very much like if you imagine search engine optimization for websites, right? So if you type something into Google, it will give you the results based on what you're looking for that it thinks are most relevant to you. And that's what an applicant tracking system is doing for the recruiter. So it knows what's in the job description, and it understands what's required for the role, and then it uses an algorithm to match that up with the profiles coming in and scan them and actually read them. It uses natural language processing to actually like pass through the resumes and read them and see what's inside, to then generate, okay, you are a 80% match, 82% match, 90% match, based on what we're looking for and what you have to offer. It's kind of looking for the overlap there. Now that I say that out loud, it's kind of like the Tinder for recruiters. So what it does is it's decoding what you've written in the resume, and it's reading these sentences and it's matching it up and scanning for keywords and key phrases that have been configured around what would make a strong candidate for this position. So an ATS eliminates, just in the first round, around about 75% of resumes directly. Boom, gone. So you can see why it's important to know how to work with the system to make sure that your resume is ending up in the pile that the recruiter is actually going to look at, so it actually gets seen by a real human. So let's dive into some tips now around keyword matching, language matching, format, and design. I get a lot of questions like, does it have to be a Word document? A PDF's okay? Can I use online resume creators? All that kind of stuff. So we're going to dive into that right about now. Okay, so let's start with keyword matching. So yes, we want you to use keywords from the job description, obviously. Go through the job description and highlight some of the keywords that keep being used over and over again. But it's not just about taking those and like spamming them and plugging them into your resume. Think about the way you can naturally put them into sentences, for example, in your summary section, in your achievements, in your role, and just make sure that they're kind of going in there quite naturally, and you're using the natural language around them that people would would use in describing that skill and talking about that experience. So think about if you're going for a digital marketing role, and specifically one that involves working with influencers on social media. Based on that, you can infer that they'd love to have someone with experience in influencer management and community management, community engagement, that kind of stuff. So try and see how you could put it all together in a sentence. For example, international digital marketer with 5 years experience spanning trend analysis, influencer marketing, advocacy, community management, and community engagement. So you've got, yes, the words that they mentioned, and some periphery words as well that come from the experience that would help and also assist you in being able to do the other skills that they're looking for. Now, there is a big misconception that you should completely cut soft skills like people management and things like that completely out of your resume, and that's not actually true at all. It could actually be working against you if you do that, but it's just about the way that you integrate it. So the worst thing you can do on a resume, and I've talked about this in other videos, is be like skills, organized, projects, people management, like okay, fluffy, like doesn't really mean much. Anyone could say that and that kind of thing. But think about the way that you then write about your achievements in your resume, for example. So if they're looking for someone with project coordination, or there's lots around executing tasks and that kind of thing, they might say something like, we want the candidate to manage projects from A to Z. So you will want to hit in your resume at some point how you've managed things from concept to completion and actually use verbs from around that concept. So what does someone who completes projects from A to Z look like? They initiate things, they complete things from conception to completion, initiated and delivered. So do think about how you can integrate those, not in a fluffy way, but integrate them into your summary and your achievements and that kind of thing. Think about the words that would link up to someone who is a great project coordinator and gets stuff done. Now, the next area is around language matching. So for example, if they say customer experience and you have client experience on your resume, change it to customer experience. If they say leadership skills and you have management skills, change it to leadership skills. Obviously only if it's still the same general concept and it's true, but match the language that they use in the job description. Now, the job title is a big one, and obviously they're going to prioritize. If they're looking for a project manager, they're going to be looking for people who have project manager as a job title in their resume. And I get it if you are going for a role that you haven't already had completely, but you can sometimes be creative around the titles that you use. And this is also a warning against using like fun titles like marketing ninja and guru and like head of people experience and like, you know, anything like that. Think to yourself, what is this role actually called? If you are struggling, look at job boards, look on LinkedIn, look at sites like onet.com and just look for what the core titles might be. You might have to shift that just for practicality purposes. And you might even be able to integrate some of the language into the resume. So for example, one of my clients was an office manager and wanted to become a project coordinator. And like when she looked at the actual job she was doing, she was a project coordinator. She just had the title of office manager. So she could have done that several ways, but we ended up saying like office manager / project coordinator. You could also say like office manager with project coordination responsibilities. You could find a way to play with that so that you have it there. Another great place to put it is in your tagline underneath the name of your resume. So this is when you kind of sum up who you are and what you do. So this is a good thing for graduates, for example. So just say that you have just graduated and you're not yet a digital marketer, but that's what you want to become. So in your headline there, you could say something like Bachelor of Commerce graduate, aspiring digital marketer, just to find a way to get the phrase, the job title in that document. I would also recommend looking on the company's website and looking at their values. What kind of values are driving their organization, their culture? Look at the careers site, look at some videos on YouTube about people, employees actually talking about the company and the work that they do. What kind of language do they tend to use in general? Because how the ATS can work is that they build up the profiles based on successful people already in the company and the language that they use and that kind of thing. And it is taken into consideration around things that our employees tend to say. So for example, at L'Oreal, it was very much around entrepreneurship, self-starting, initiating things, like working autonomously, working independently. There was a whole thing around running your role as if you were an entrepreneur as a concept, right? So are you, like, go through and do another scan, do you have words that scream culture fit as well, based on the company in your resume? And it's really, really important that you don't get repetitive. So go through again, look at your resume, make sure you're not repeating words over and over again. So if you're going for a marketing role, use a variety of synonyms that are like marketed, promoted, advertised, campaigned, you know what I mean? So sort of like make sure that you've got lots of synonyms in there as well. And again, if you're applying to a startup, you might want to use words like built, created, initiated, words that might suit a startup environment as well. So let's dive into one of the areas that people talk about the most, which is the format. Like some people say you have to upload a Word document only, PDFs won't get read, they're read as an image and that kind of thing. So maybe that was true like years ago, that some ATSs struggled to read PDFs. But basically this is what you need to know. The reason that Word documents and Word documents turned into PDFs work well is because they hard encode the text from the Word document and into the PDF. So, you know, when you've got the PDF, you can highlight the text, right? You know what I mean? And so this means that the algorithm, the ATS, can read that language using its natural language processing. Now, you can still submit PDFs that are not from the basis of a Word document. I use Canva. There are other tools online where you can create resumes. Just make sure that when you download it, you can highlight the text, and that's possible. That's quite a telling sign. But what you do want to keep in mind is that if it hasn't come from a Word document, it needs to use its natural language processing to pass through the text. And so you don't want to use funny fonts or hard to read fonts and stuff. Keep it like simple serif fonts that are just like, you know, quite classic. You know, I'm thinking Arial or Helvetica or, you know, standard, quite simple to read fonts. You don't want any fancy text. I've talked about this before as well, but don't put too many graphics in there. Like use graphics to highlight your point, but always use the language because they can't read images, they can't read graphics. So your bar charts and your images and your day in the lives and like pie charts and all that kind of stuff is cool, but the only thing they're reading is the text. So if you're going to be doing like my languages and have a bar chart, make sure you write out French, Spanish, you know, like you write out the languages. You don't just put like the colors of the flags or emojis and stuff. I've seen that, it looks really cool, but the ATS can't read that stuff. And something else to keep in mind here is that yes, while your resume is super important, you know, when you apply online and sometimes asks you to dump your experience in text boxes, sometimes it's because their ATS has had issues in the past with reading PDFs. So what you write in those text boxes, I know people are like, oh, why are they asking me to repeat myself? Like, do a good job of that because the ATS is reading the text in those boxes, not your resume potentially. So if you do see those text boxes and is asking you to copy your experience and your motivation and please put your cover letter in this box and stuff, do it. A couple of bonus tips here. Number one is that more sophisticated programs can actually measure the degree of something, like the magnitude of a task or a skill. So don't be afraid to use those adjectives, things like strong or compelling sense of la la la. And don't be afraid to throw in those adverbs as well. So successfully, efficiently, effectively, or even emphasize nouns like mastery, proficiency, and competency. Those kind of things to kind of give a magnitude to your experience, your skill, or the way you did something. Definitely bonus points for that, I would say. And another tip that I've mentioned on here before, but in case this is your first time, you can use a website called JobScan. It's not perfect. Don't take it as gospel because it does its best based on the software and technology it has, but you can actually upload your resume and the job description to the site, JobScan, and it will give you a relevancy score. So it will give you a relevancy score and some tips for how you might be able to make your resume even more ATS friendly. So I hope that you guys found this useful. This isn't everything that you need to know about the ATS because I'm running out of time, but it's definitely a really strong foundation. ATS 101, not even 101, 102. And I hope that it helps you in preparing your resume and being able to go through and give it another look and say, is this gonna get through the system? As always, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask me down below. And while you're there, grab my killer resume cheat sheet that gives you a real life resume sample and talks you through some key points in pulling together a really effective and killer resume. Otherwise, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao!